Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is, by the way, another episode of our previously, recently named Jedi Enclave Presents the This Is Podcasting podcast. It has to be those words in that order. Yeah. Because that's the whole title.
I think you're giving this way too long of a title that you're never going to actually remember.
And that's fine, because then it will be legally distinct, because there has to be a podcast out there called Now This Is Podcasting.
Almost certainly, yeah.
So like Jedi Enclave Presents Now This Is Podcasting podcast.
The Now This Is Podcasting podcast.
Yes, yeah. See how I'm covering our bases there? I could be a lawyer. Anyway,
despite having never studied anything relating to the law,
or as the Brits call it, reading the law, because it's much more fancy over there. So yeah, this is our weekly live show. Ordinarily happens on Wednesdays at 6, but that has not happened for quite some time and will not happen until at least after next week, because I have a rehearsal next week on Wednesday.
Anyway, yeah, that's the future.
So, a good way to know when we're on is to join us for our nightly Battlefront streams, which we're not doing tonight, or check us out on social media.
Or just DM Daniel and ask when the show is.
Yeah, I'm just a normal dude. I'm not even famous. Today, we're going to do a little bit of Star Wars news, but also the big attraction today is Secret Invasion Episode 2, which was great. Yeah. The show has been a lot of fun so far. And then you and I went and saw
Indy 5.
Yeah, Indy 5 and the Dial of Destiny. And it was
the final Indiana Jones movie, wink.
I think it is.
It probably is.
I think Harrison Ford's like, never again.
I just have to throw that proviso out because, in 5 years, Harrison Ford might decide he needs another airplane.
I don't think he'll be alive in 5 years.
I don't think any of us are going to be alive in 5 years.
Harrison Ford is, I don't know. He looks really good for his age, but he's
old
as
fuck.
Fuck. Yeah.
Like he was already 40 something when he did Star Wars back in 77.
Yeah. Or like mid 30s.
Yeah.
He's born in 1941.
So he'd be
in his 30s,
80 or something now.
Yeah.
Damn.
Alexa, how old is Harrison Ford? She'll know.
Harrison Ford is 80 years old.
He's 80 years old.
There you go.
Damn.
Also, let us know in the comments how many of your She Who Must Not Be Named just got triggered when Daniel said that.
Oh, right. Yeah. Actually, also mine's male. I don't know why I refer it. We had our Echo on female mode for the longest time, and I just got used to calling it a her or screaming, "What are you doing, bitch?" And then we changed it to a male for some reason, or by accident. I can't remember. And
dude,
now
it's pride. It's okay to be trans.
Yeah, it's just like now it is very probably confused.
Yeah.
Thank you to Connor, the Star Wars Hub, and Star Wars Veritas for your awesome friendship. Go check his pages out on Facebook. He's a cool guy. And then while you're here, like us where you're supposed to like us, subscribe to us where you're supposed to subscribe to us.
Click the buttons and type the things that make the algorithms like us more.
And you can join our Discord, the link to which is in the description of this video. And sadly, there will be no Battlefront 2 stream tonight. We just don't have the time. It's been like we're already like an hour late or something. There was a bad there was a very
bad thunderstorm blew through our area, and
our pizza was late. And
it was just a disaster.
Adam Jackson says it was utterly average. Talking about Indiana Jones, I think it's a little more than average.
I think it's a little better than that, but we'll get to it.
I ended up liking it more than I liked the Indiana Jones and the aliens, who aren't, by the way, called aliens, because Steven Spielberg. It was George Lucas's idea to have aliens, but Steven Spielberg's like, I've done like 10 movies with aliens in them.
I'm not doing any more fucking aliens.
And George Lucas is like, what if we call them interdimensional beings and they're gray alien-looking things? And he's like, I'm tired of talking about this. Fine. It's fine.
I'm tired of arguing with you, George.
Go do your thing. Go sell Star Wars, you son of a bitch.
Go count your money.
Yeah.
Your $4 billion.
That was before he sold Star Wars, but yeah. So we'll probably zip through these little Star Wars and easy things.
All right, so we're talking about news.
Yeah, and so this first thing, they're doing Andor.
Yes,
they're filming Andor, which is good. So the way this is working, yes, there's a Writers Guild strike. Things that are currently in development for script writing are on pause. Just ended up happening that Andor's script was finished. before the writer's strike. However, it's probably still going to be a little rough because the way of the business is to write the script and then rewrite shit on set.
Yeah,
as needed.
Because sometimes a writer writes something and it sounds really and looks really good in their head, and then you get to actually filming it and it doesn't look the way they want it to. So the director asks you to change some things, and so they do.
So I don't know what they're going to do about that, but they have started filming, and they're prepping to film a scene.
I suspect what's going to happen is after the strike gets resolved, there's going to be a lot of reshoots, where they actually have a writer on hand to like look at the footage they shot and say, okay, does this work? Do you think we should change anything? And
yeah, that makes sense. But they are, so they're kind of gearing up to get everything ready. And they're where they are recently was at Hever Castle, which is in Kent, I think. Which is like 40 minutes from London, or I don't know. I don't live in the fucking UK. I don't know anything over there. Also, all of their town names are just really pretentious, like really pretentious 1-syllable, 2-syllable words.
And sometimes they're very, very long words that come from like Old English, which is basically German.
Yeah. So you might be thinking, well, what the fuck do we care? Hever Castle, it's probably pronounced differently. Turns out that that is where they filmed some of the scenes for the Theed Palace sequences in Star Wars Episode 1, which lends like it makes sense that they would be using it for because it's a very distinctive looking building. Yeah, that they'll be using it for Naboo for season 2, which is really neat because Naboo isn't really a planet we've returned to since episode 1 or episode 2. Like I know that like in episode 3 there was like the one scene of Jar Jar hanging off the building going, "We set free despite my efforts."
Yeah.
But
like there was the shot of Padme's funeral in episode 3. Oh yeah,
that's in episode 3. Yeah, you're right. Now the other thing, like this could also someone pointed out like this could be it could be Yavin 4. Like it could look enough like Yavin 4 to do that. There's these came from Reddit, by the way. It was a photo someone posted to the Star Wars subreddit. And it's just showing they're setting up the stuff there. And there's a Redditor that claims that his dad is a security officer, and someone there told him that it was Naboo, and it's like,
here we go.
They wouldn't tell you that.
No,
you'd be like, hey, what's going on here? And they'd be like, you're fired. You're not supposed to ask those questions. So it's Reddit. Assume this is a lie because it's either a lie or a joke, because that's what it is on Reddit, right? Someone's just trying to get like upvotes for being ironic and weird. So having a story, or at least if it's on Naboo, it could be like they're stopping for gas on Naboo or something, right? Or it could be like how in the first episode of Andor they did like 3 episode arcs, like three episode arcs, right? Basically. So it could be one of those, and it would be really interesting to see a Star Wars story on Naboo.
Well, we know that's what they're like. There was an interview with Tony Gilroy a while back where he essentially said that like, the second season is going to be a 1-year time jump, 3 episodes, 1-year time jump, 3 episodes, 1-year time jump, 3 episodes.
So they're kind of doing the House of the Dragon thing.
Yeah, like they need, like they have this one season to get us all the way to the start of Rogue One from 5 years before. So they're going pedal to the metal with this. That's cool though. That's a really interesting way to tell a story, and especially when we know that it'll be like the episodes will be proper length and everything. That's a really neat way to tell a story. So it's something I've really loved about House of the Dragon. I know we're gonna go there just for a second, and I know like some people might not be like super into Game of Thrones or anything, but I'm very much into it. The new spin-off series House of the Dragon has a time jump in every episode, or almost every episode. Most of them,
where the cast changes a lot because they're really big time jumps. They're not even, Andor's not doing huge time jumps, so they don't have to change cast or anything. In House of the Dragon, they change, except for Sir Crispin, who somehow looks younger than he did when the show started.
But yeah, like a bunch of teenage characters grow up and are played by adult actors now. The king gets gradually more fucked up as he gets the plague or whatever.
Yeah, scurvy or whatever. So I liked that storytelling device because like so things, change. It creates, on one hand, it creates a, how did this happen? Yada yada. This is how it happened. Don't fucking ask how it happens.
Which is a very neat writing device because it lets the audience imagine how things happen. Yeah. Whenever you leave space for things to, like, not major plot mysteries, but just things that are unexplained, it lets the audience fill it in, and it means that you don't have to do as much work writing.
So I agree with you that it is very intelligent, but that is not how Star Wars fans operate. They want to know how Han Solo got his striped pants and his blaster, and or Indiana Jones getting the scar on his chin or whatever. And so I think I will enjoy it. I think it'll be fine. And I think it would be really interesting also to see what kind of story they could tell in Naboo. Because I think it's a location that Star Wars fans care a lot about, right? And of course there will be references to fucking Padme, unless they like wiped her from the record. They're like she didn't exist, or Palpatine being from Naboo. Yeah, like all these things could come into this, at least mentioned in the story, which I think would be kind of nice. Chris says, "May the Force be with you, Jedi Enclave. Thank you for." That scrolled, and I did not ask it to scroll. Thank you for your awesome content. Apparently, people are taking out of context with Kathleen Kennedy when she was saying it was time for Star Wars to go beyond the stories of George Lucas, which Star Wars absolutely has. I didn't put it on a news rundown because I didn't have enough time to read it and look into it, but I saw a couple of like clickbaity. Kathleen Kennedy says it's time for Star Wars to move past George Lucas. And let's pretend for a second that it's an honest title. And that's literally what she said.
She's correct.
It doesn't belong to George Lucas anymore. Yeah. Like, it just doesn't. And look, George Lucas is a creative mind that only happens once every couple hundred years, right? But when it comes to the literal, like, making the beef and everything, he's not very good at it. And look, I don't want you to come at me with knives. Like I've said, George Lucas is deserving of his recognition of one of our greatest imaginations, right? He does not write good dialogue. He's a good director. Yeah. I like, for the most part, I think he's a good director. But his like approach to stories is like, the details don't matter. This character does this, and they're happy in the end, and then they fill it in later, right? Or like you'll see us like the Obi-Wan Anakin fight in episode 3 is in the script. They fight, and that's just how it is, right? And so like all the best things that you remember from Star Wars, which are like Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, weren't written or directed by George Lucas, right? He was the producer, executive producer.
Episode 4 is only as good as it is because the very smart movie people around George Lucas wrested control of the movie from him and made it good.
Yeah, well, not movie executives, by the way.
No, like
his friends.
Steven Spielberg and his wife, right. Basically.
Also, Harrison Ford being like, this is the dumbest dialogue I've ever seen in my life.
I'm going to make shit up.
Yeah. So that does not mean that George Lucas is bad at what he does. He really is a legendary creative mind. Like, I totally grant that.
It's just that there's like two different types of creating broadly. Yeah. There's like world building and creating a universe.
Yeah, he's not a details guy. Yeah. He's a big picture guy.
And then there's the individual nitty gritty narrative story stuff. And he's really good at world building. He's not so good at writing narratives.
Yeah. So but also he doesn't own it anymore. And you know, you got to let the past die. If I can do a Kylo Ren, don't kill George Lucas, but like, you know what I'm saying? What's next?
So The Bad Batch. Remember that show?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So we know that there's going to be a third and final season.
Which I think is great. I think that is, for the show that it's been, I think 3 seasons is kind of the perfect length for it.
It's also really nice that they seem to have planned this enough in advance to say, yes, this is the end. Yeah. No matter how good it does, we're not going to extend it for another season. Like, we have written to this ending, and that is the ending that we are going to.
We've already killed Tech. Yeah. So we know that you guys aren't going to be interested for that much longer because Tech's a stud, you know. Or is he dead?
2 big updates. First off, we know that season 3 is almost done with recording voice acting and will soon be moving further into production, which is just how animation works. You get the voices and then you like animate the lip flaps and movements and things around it.
The lip flaps.
Yes, that's an actual term.
Yeah. It always mystifies me how animated shows are made sometimes and how like stressful that must be, where they do just things backwards than you would expect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still have like a script and a storyboard and things.
Yeah.
It's just the animators then go in afterwards and make the storyboard move and make the dialogue make sense.
Lip flaps.
The other big thing is that Michelle Ong?
Yeah. She plays Omega.
Yes, the voice actress for Omega. She got a little statuette from Lucasfilm of like a clone helmet on a little stand saying thank you for your service to the Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's nice. I know cute. where the fan base is concerned with Bad Batch. I know people don't love Omega a whole bunch. To be fair, she's a little annoying, but I happen to think all kids that age are annoying.
I think she's extremely true to life to like a 10 or 11 year old kid.
And I think that's the problem is 10 or 11 year old kids.
Yeah.
Like we can all agree that those like they shouldn't exist.
That's just an age at which you are a shithead. Yeah. And if you don't think you were a shithead when you were at that age, ask your parents.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is another one of those where like this was finished. The script is finished, I think, before the writer's strike. And
definitely,
so, this will come out on time, which is nice. So just last week, we were talking about Star Wars Eclipse because they talked to a French TV station about.
Yes, everything's going fine. We cleared up all the harassment. Yeah. Not like we're focusing just on video games.
We solved harassment worldwide.
Everyone comes to work on Monday. Yeah. They work until Friday. They have the weekend off. They're all happy about it.
Yeah. We don't touch them over their pants.
We don't flirt with them.
Yeah. Give us our Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, please. So it turns out that they expanded on. So there's a. This comes from a source that is kind of has demonstrated their reliability in the past.
Okay.
That does not mean that it logically follows that they are correct about this. Sure. I want to put that out front. Just because someone was correct in the past does not mean that they are currently correct.
Stop clock is right twice a day.
Right. You need to make sure you need to verify things. You need to have good evidence to believe, claims.
Also, the track record matters. Like if someone is consistently right about a lot of things over time, that means it's probably safe to believe them on
they're
most
at least it's more reliable.
Yes.
Least, but it's not even still like you can have a book with 101 things. And if 100 of them are right, it doesn't mean the 101st thing is correct. Right.
It just means that like trusted news sources that have been doing this for a while are more reliable. That
being said, the sources comes from were the same people or the same source that leaked the NetEase, the Chinese company that bought Quantic Dream. Oh, they leaked that information 6 months before it was announced. And so like that, it was like, okay, well, you got a thing right. So, I just want to make sure we put that grain of salt in there because this could totally be, however, it totally makes sense though. Apparently the Quantic Dream is trying to keep their 2026 release date promise for Star Wars Eclipse.
Good fucking luck.
And everyone who knows anything about the business is like, yeah, no. Not going to happen. And this is apparently something that's kind of playing into the trouble they're having is that, and maybe you're not going to believe this, Quantic Dream is having trouble getting people to work for them.
You mean to tell me that a studio that has had like serious allegations of harassment from management to their workforce is having trouble finding people to work for them?
Yeah. It turns out they don't want to be sexually harassed at work.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah. And I feel like they're probably a lot less tolerant of that in Europe than they are in the United States.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Because their quality of life there is a little bit higher and they're like, I don't need that job. Yeah. Like I just go work somewhere else. So, also, Quantic Dream apparently is in a legal battle with the whistleblower who broke the harassment news. So I love how they're like, oh, we've solved these problems and it's not a problem anymore and blah 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 blah. We're suing you for telling on us. Like, fuck you. So yeah, I don't think that there's really any way in hell that we're gonna see Star Wars Eclipse before 2028.
On the one hand, 2026 is a really long time away.
It's not. On
the other, it's not in AAA video game terms.
Yeah, because I mean those things sit in development for quite a while. Yeah. In fact, some of them I'm really surprised. They're like, yeah, this has been in development for 6 years. And it's like, There's been a new console in 6 years. Like that's like how do you develop a game and then be like, this 6-year-old game needs to be current? Like it really confuses me. I understand. There's a lot of stuff there I probably don't get because I'm not a developer and shit. But
also worth noting, the one trailer we have seen of Eclipse is like fully pre-rendered cutscene, and like it's not in engine. We have no idea what this game looks like.
It's not a judge at all what kind of game it will be or if it'll be good or bad. So I still think that there's a fair chance that this gets the plug pulled on it, and we might never see it.
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised that Lucasfilm wasn't like, well, you guys got caught sexually harassing people, which we apparently also do, I learned. But you got caught. Mm-hmm. So this is bad for us. So we're going to go with a game company that doesn't get caught doing sexual harassment. They are smart enough to hide it. But I don't know. That's the thing is Quantic Dream was bought by another company, and maybe the Chinese are less. Maybe they'll be like, communism, fuck you. Don't do that.
There's no good way to segue into this. So let's talk about Star Wars.
Communism.
Anyway, so BioWare announced earlier this week that Star Wars: The Old Republic, their long-running Star Wars MMO, is changing developers away from BioWare to a company called Broadsword, which is most notable for running Dark Age of Camelot and Ultima Online, which I was shocked to discover is still running.
Are those mobile games? I don't know anything about them.
They're MMOs.
Oh, okay.
Ultima Online is from like 2000 or something. It's old as fuck.
It's funny. That was my thought of like, I remember seeing a press release for new content for the Old Republic like a year ago, being like, what? They're still developing that game? They're still
making shit for that
game. Because not only is it an old ass fucking game, it's none of it's canon.
Yeah.
Like it's just goofy Star Wars bullshit, right? And it's like,
in a way, it not being canon might be good for it because it means they can do whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't matter.
But also, they must have enormous support still for that game to still be, because they're not doing it for the nostalgia.
Yeah,
they're like
they're doing it because it makes money.
Yeah, and I'm just really surprised. It's one. I think I'm going to re-download that. It's why I was asking you. I messaged you about if you still had your account because I still have mine. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it's tied to my old Urbana Pops email, which I don't have anymore. I'll look into that. It might be worth looking at again because I'll play it for a while and then take like a 2-year break. It's how long this game has been going. Yeah. Like play it for a while, take a 2-year break, play it for a while. The game is entirely different. The mechanics are different. You
have a ton more of content to do. Yeah. Eventually you get bored, you drop off again. Yep.
So I don't know. Go see if yours still work. I'll see if mine. We'll do like a stream with it or something. It'll be
the developers were very careful to stress that we're gonna try to keep as many people who are working on the game moving to the new developer, and they're promising that they're gonna keep developing new stuff, and it's not gonna just die out, and they're not gonna one day just say, oh, well, this is all you get. We're done making new stuff for this.
Yeah, to be fair, that is probably what will happen
eventually,
because they're very good at saying things like, for example, the EA Dice, where they were really like, oh yeah, guys, we've got you covered.
We're gonna support Battlefront 2 for a decade.
It's like it's gonna be so fucking good. You guys are gonna love this so fucking much. Literally a week later, they're like, oh yeah, we're done. We're done with this. See you later.
Ahsoka who?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So. Yeah, I think I might revisit that game a little bit just to fuck around with it. I was never super impressed with it. I mean, I was kind of. It just never felt very Star Wars to me.
Yeah, like I had fun with it. I don't regret the time I spent on it. I don't know that I would say it's a good game exactly, but
fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I got to wave around lightsabers. It was great.
Yeah, but the lightsaber hilts look like fat burritos.
Yeah,
like they're too big, and it's, I don't know. It's probably because that's how it works with the graphics. You can't have I always would try to find the skinniest little hilt to make them look like real lightsabers. Let's talk Skrulls. Skrulls, and then Indy 5.
Okay.
So this is a spoiler warning, by the way. If you've not seen yesterday's episode of Secret Invasion, which apparently
go watch it. It's really good.
I guess a ton of people aren't watching it, which is a surprise and not a surprise.
I mean, some of the other Disney Plus shows have had like really recognizable characters that people loved watching, and Nick Fury was always kind of a supporting character in the movies he was in.
Yeah, but it's Sam Jackson.
Yeah, which is part of what makes it a surprise, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I know that like not a lot of people watch Miss Marvel because maybe people weren't very interested in the character, but like Sam Jackson is one of the most famous actors in the world, and you would think that people would be like, just to see if he drops, just to see if Disney's finally like, you can have one F-bomb and it goes to Sam Jackson. That's our condition. So you've
the
been
other side of this. I think people might be a little bit suffering from Disney Plus fatigue.
Yeah,
like there's just too many shows.
They are pumping out a lot of content for pretty much Star Wars and MCU, and like that's it. So it's too bad because this show has been really great. Like I've enjoyed it so far. It's only the second episode, but and I'm pretty sure that this is the only season we're getting.
It would make sense
from what I understand. It probably connects to things like Miss Marvel. Or whatever else. So we opened in 1995. And so when this popped up on screen, I was watching it with John. And
I started counting on your fingers. Okay, what does this mean?
Well, I was like, okay, MCU 1995. That was before Avengers. So it was like before the attack on Earth. And John was like, well, the only 90s movie in MCU was Captain Marvel. And I was like, I love that movie. Yeah. That's fucking great. And so it takes place roughly around then, right? They do a real slick previously on where they basically
just recap Miss Marvel.
Yeah. Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
You'll notice that they very carefully do not show Brie Larson's face because I think that they probably would have had to pay her like royalties or
almost
something.
Certainly, yeah.
So like they don't show her at all.
Just a lot of de-aged Sam Jackson.
Yeah, which by the way, we were talking about this earlier today, and like this is a reminder in this episode that de-aging in Captain Marvel is fucking good. Yeah. It is so good, and they also de-aged Agent Coulson in that movie as well. Also looked really good. And then we get like Luke Skywalker. It's like, oh god, like. We were talking about this on the way to the theater.
So you're speculating as to how bad Indy would look.
Yeah, which by the way looked fucking great. Yeah. He really did look great. Like to us, since we're really good at seeing faces and being like that's not an actual face. Like Luke Skywalker was kind of jarring to us.
That's just our primate brain.
But honestly, the technology that went into it is actually kind of impressive. Yeah. Like when you think about it from a like technology.
The technology is amazing and it's only going to get better.
Right. So you get your like, this happened in Miss Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. God damn it. This is your fault. This is the reason I'm saying that. Where the Skrulls and the Kree were in a fucking age-long war. And now
Skrulls are looking for a new home and blah, blah,
Carol
blah.
Danvers is helping and Nick Fury is kind of like getting the idea of the Avengers rolling and shit. And they're doing this like recruitment event in this building in Brixton,
England.
Yeah. Do you think there's anywhere else in the world called Brixton that isn't in England?
I just wanted to cover our bases.
I'm just saying that's the most English sounding.
There's probably some northeast town that is named Brixton.
So
let us know in the comments. Yeah. Where's Brixton?
Our one British fan, by the way. So he's having a little talk with this group of people, and Talos is there. Ben Mendelsohn and his wife and daughter are there, and they bring in this other kid called Gravik, who we know from is like the baddie in this show, and he's building this network of Skrull agents, right? And he's pretty much like, look, if you guys do your part, I'll do my part. And I've got your backs. And which his part is, I'll find you another home.
I'll find you a home. Yeah. While I'm doing that, you guys help me, make the world not explode.
Yeah. What he actually says is, Carol Danvers and I will find you a home. Yeah. The more we get into the show, it's like they've got to have Brie Larson in this somewhere, right? Especially with Miss Marvel coming up, or the Marvels. Yeah.
It would be a very definite connection point. So
he's like, all right. Dude, fucking who's with me? And that like they do it's like every movie ever.
Yeah, they shapeshift and step forward, and it's like, okay, I got my Skrull agents.
It turns out that Gravik was like he escaped from behind enemy lines on his own and piloted a ship and made it to Earth.
Yeah, and his parents were killed by the Kree.
Yeah, and so he's pretty radicalized, right? He's, not a surprise at all what he ends up doing, right? So they have this whole thing where everyone's like have faith in Fury and in Nick Fury, I mean.
Now we skip ahead like 20 years or so.
Yeah, things aren't doing so great.
No, especially not in Moscow where some bombs just blew up.
Yeah. Turns out Nick Fury has not found a planet for the Skrulls.
No.
And some of them are a little pissed.
A little bit upset about it.
And yeah, so in the last episode, someone blew up, Unity Day thing in Moscow. And
also shot Maria Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're on the train from Moscow to Poland or something, right?
Well, at the Unity, the wreckage of the Unity thing, the Russian police are arresting one of the Skrulls who keeps yelling, "I'm an American! I'm American!"
Yeah. Wink. Is it on the record? I am an American. Do you hear my American accent? And the people writing it like, he says he's an American. I guess that's okay. And
someone else like grabs Nick Fury and shoves him into a van, and then the door of the van closes and shapeshifts into Talos.
Yeah.
So.
So
now they're on a train to Poland
because some people now in the international community might want to talk to Nick Fury.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, because at best he was there and didn't stop a bombing, or at worst he bombed Moscow, and both of those things to the right people would be like, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
So they're on their train ride, and there are these Russian guards like knocking door to door, and like this like really beautiful woman answers the door, and they're like, hey, we're looking for a black guy.
This man.
Yeah.
Have you seen this man?
Yeah, and she's like, black people in Russia, that does not exist. What the fuck?
The fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah,
get out of here.
Yeah. And so they're like, you know what? Good point. We're not going to look in here at all, because I'm sure if we literally look 3 inches to our left, we'll see the literal black man sitting on that exact seat. Mm-hmm. So it turns out it's just Talos, who apparently has like, he's got his Ben Mendelsohn face, but he's like got a backup woman face.
He just has a portfolio. Yeah. I imagine all the Skrulls do. They just have a bunch of people they can change.
See, I thought that they could only do one.
No.
Yeah, I thought that like Gravik in the previous episode, like shifting into different people was like a special thing, but I guess they can probably do it in several. So they sit down, and Nick Fury is wearing a different outfit. He's got like these cool fucking glasses on and shit. He's looking very trim.
He's looking very dapper.
Yeah, and this is pretty much how the conversation goes. He like sits down. He's like, okay, I was fucking this girl way back in the day, or they were too young for that, and they were just like pantsing each other or something
like that.
Yeah. And he's like, my mom
knew, but she wanted to hear me say it.
Right. So we'd play this game where I tell me something I don't know about. Mm-hmm. And the whole point of it was, even if you lied, she could still tell and still get information. Yeah. And he's like, so as you might have guessed, we're going to play that game right now because Moscow is on fire. Mm-hmm. I've only been on Earth for like 12 hours, and now the international community is after me. Mm-hmm. So we need to figure this out.
Tell me something I don't know about the Skrulls.
Right. And
Ben Mendelsohn is like,
Skrulls, what are those?
I mean, there's a million of us here. And he's like, a million?
Yeah. It's so Nick Fury has a lot of great conversations in this episode. And everything he does, like everything is so great. I love all of his like little monologues and shit. But like there's one point where they were talking about how Ben Mendelsohn was talking about the Skrulls and human beings living in harmony with each other,
coexist.
And Fury's like,
motherfucker, humans can't coexist with themselves.
Have you not met a human being? Have you not seen this universe's version of Fox News, FXN News? That doesn't happen here. We've been either murdering, raping, or pillaging each other since we were upright apes.
Don't forget enslaving.
Yeah. So what the fuck did you think was going to happen? And he's like, it's a fairly good point. So
he's like, you and I need to split ways because you need to think about how stupid what you just said was. Yeah. And Talos is like, fine, I'll be a woman and walk off the train.
Yeah. They have their little fight, mm-hmm. right? And it's just kind of like this conversation serves to kind of show the scope of the extent to which they could possibly be fucked.
I think it also serves to show just how much strain Fury is under and how much Maria Hill's death really bugged him.
Yeah, but
because after Talos walks out, like he breaks down crying, basically.
It's that's most of it. But the other thing I kind of noticed in this was everyone is just bagging on him about how he's not very good at being Nick Fury anymore. And from what I can tell, he is the same. Like because he's apparently had some PTSD after the blip and everything, but like he is an untrusting, paranoid motherfucker, which is exactly what he was before the blip. So like, what I don't understand why everyone's like, you're not ready for you're fucking.
Well, I'm reminded, like, think of all the things we've seen since Endgame until now, where Nick Fury could have gotten involved but didn't. Yeah. Like Ms. Marvel is just fresh in my head. Like the way damage control and everyone was like blowing the fuck out of Jersey City. That seems like something that S.H.I.E.L.D. might have been involved in had Nick Fury been paying more attention to Earth.
Yeah, that's true. So meanwhile in London, Maria Hill's body is being flown in from Moscow, and it's met by her mother and her mother's partner, maybe, or a friend,
counselor, army chaplain, who knows.
Played by her mother Elizabeth, played by Juliet Stevenson.
The very first time I saw this, I thought the black-haired woman might be Julie Dreyfus.
Oh,
and it took me a second of actually studying, saying, no, okay, that's not her. Yeah. This isn't a Thunderbolts tie-in.
She would have been way more obnoxious, I think. Yeah. She would have been like, oh, that's your daughter? That's so sad. Like, you can't just say that to people. So she's there to collect her daughter's remains, right? And it turns out that Nick Fury is there as well. And they have a conversation where no one will tell Maria's mother where she even died, let alone why. Yeah. And so Fury's like, okay, so this is probably highly classified, but as we know, you can just keep classified documents in your bathroom and not get in trouble for it for a while. So I'm just going to tell you that she died in Moscow, and she died trying to protect me, pretty much. And
basically for someone else to hurt me.
Right. And so she was like, so it's
your fault.
Your fault is what you're saying. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah,
that's how I feel too. That's why I feel like shit. And
Mrs. Hill is like, all right, you motherfucker. I don't care what you were doing. Just make sure that my daughter didn't die for nothing.
Yeah. They do some news-position, which is in every TV show and movie ever where they do exposition via news. Yep. Which I find very annoying. But it does its job, right? And there are clips from the terrorist attack and everything, and
saying, Nick Fury is wanted on charges of international terrorism.
Yeah,
blah blah blah.
2,000 people were killed.
Yes,
which is
at least 2,000. They're still
which
counting.
I know in their universe isn't a lot, because when you consider that half of all the universe died for 5 years,
or even like the Battle of New York, which I guess in universe had surprisingly few casualties, but realistically, like something like a million
2,000. I think to put that into perspective, that's more than 9/11, I think, because I think we only lost like 1,500. Only, I shouldn't say only. Like that was still a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm curious about this now.
I mean, the really shitty thing is that 2,000 is like a drop in the bucket compared to how many people died of COVID.
Yeah, that's also pretty scary. So it's 9/11 was 3,000 people. Okay, so that's still like 2,000 is an enormous amount of people, right? And you meet some new people on the news. Prime Minister of the UK is on there. The NATO Secretary General, and there is. There's the Fox News guy that's like the Sean Hannity type, right? And then wasn't there someone else?
Maybe, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So they're all doing their press.
This junkets. Is very serious. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. So Gaia, who is Ben Mendelsohn's daughter, is driving.
And also Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons.
Yes. Is driving Gravik to a fancy meeting. And so they pull up and he gets out and they both go in. And
the door guard like kind of blocks Guy's way and Gravik hands her his gun and says, if I'm not out in an hour, fucking shoot him in the head.
Yeah, I love how the guy was like, I don't think I'll just let you do that.
Guy's like, okay, I'm fine with
How about we just all agree you'll be out of here in an hour and this won't be a problem.
59 minutes. I'll do you one better.
So he gets into this meeting, and it's all the people from the fucking TV.
Yes.
The NATO guy, they're all Skrulls. Yes. Everyone in the show is a fucking Skrull, right? And so they're not necessarily bad guys. They're just trying to keep everything like chill.
They're trying to live up to their deal with Fury, right?
Yeah, right.
They keep the world from burning down, and Fury finds them a home.
Right. And so they're like, why are you, Gravik, trying to burn the world down? Because we're trying not to do that. And he was like, so Nick Fury lied. He made us a promise. He didn't keep it. So like now it's, now we need to invade it. Earth is our new home.
Yes.
And instead of being like, let's debate this, they're like, why don't you lead our armies? And he was like, that
the really fucked up part of this is that like it's the Prime Minister of the UK who says, I nominate Gravik to lead our armies.
Yeah.
And like
you're English. You're supposed to be the reasonable one.
And like this other character who we didn't meet in news position is like, that's really, what the fuck are you this is so stupid. Yeah. And then all the other Skrulls are in support of that, and she's like, fuck this. I can't, I'm not supporting this. I'm out of here. And Garrick's like, okay, cool. See ya.
Yeah.
You will not be harmed.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure you'll be just fine. So now they're just like, we're balls deep in the invasion. So
we're committed to this. We have a war.
Right. So let's see. We got so where am I on this little thing?
I think it's Don Cheadle goes to the UN. Oh,
right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Don Cheadle goes to the UN. That could be the name of an episode. I think that'd be a lot of fun. He is being the most politician to ever politician, and he's being such a cunt about it.
Like, they're like, can you look at this footage that is Nick Fury in Moscow as the bombs are going off and explain to me how Nick Fury might be here?
Yeah.
And Don Cheadle's just like, well, I can't take anything, posited by Russians at face value.
Yeah.
Would you like to provide some actual evidence?
Yeah. They're like, is this Nick Fury? Yes.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
The area that he's standing in is Moscow. Yes.
Can neither confirm nor deny.
Yes. So Nick Fury is in Moscow.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
No. I don't know. I honestly don't know. And they're like, well, we got these pictures from a very reliable source, the Russians. He's like,
yeah, okay.
Have you not been following American politics? Because
for the last ever?
Yeah. The Russian point is moot. Okay, we're not talking about the whole Russian. And like that's how his his big this is how I dodge this whole thing is the Russians.
Like at one point he makes a point and like the Slovakia representative just kind of scoffs at him and
he's like, I would like to kill this bitch, please.
Can I just carpet bomb Slovakia now?
Because he still has
the War Machine suit.
So we talked about this a little bit. Don Cheadle, Skrull.
Almost certain.
Yeah.
I'm like 80-90% sure.
It would have happened it would have had to have happened after Endgame.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of points made in a video that we were watching about how his emotional reaction to Tony Stark's death would ruin everything pretty much if he ended up being a Skrull then. Yeah. But it's probably in one of those fracking pods somewhere, right? Yeah. There are a couple of red flags. One of them in this episode.
It's mostly that he's being needlessly antagonistic about all of this.
Yeah, there's a thing that he says to Fury in their meeting later on. It was like, oh, this on its face doesn't seem suspicious, but it feels really suspicious.
The exact words he's saying are not wrong and not you can't argue it.
That's the problem.
It's his tone and the way he phrases everything that's just trying to set things a little bit more on fire.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, he gets out of a meeting. He gets a phone call. It's Nick Fury saying, "Sup, bitch? I need to talk."
Yeah, we need to go sip whiskey somewhere.
Yes.
Just two black dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could,
in Brussels, sipping whiskey.
Yeah, if you could, and this would be great, clear the entire bar out so there's no one there because I don't want to share a bar with anyone. Yeah. And he's like, all right, that's fine. Fair. So they go to a bar, clear the whole place out. He's like, I just bought the building. I'm an American. That's what we do. Yeah. So they sit and have a talk. And the first thing that Don Cheadle says,
best scene of the episode.
Yeah, it is a really, and it not because the other scenes are bad, but because
it's two actors who are acting the hell out of their characters.
Yeah, I love how the first thing he says is I might just give you to the Russians because it would please me.
Yeah.
And but since we've known each other for so long, maybe there's
let's talk. Let's hear your side of it.
Yeah. And so he's like, okay, I obviously didn't bomb Moscow, and you're a fucking idiot for thinking so. And he's like, well, here's the thing. In this meeting I just had, they had a picture of you and they had a picture of Russia, and I had to say, I don't know.
And everything was exploding around you.
So this is a really weird spot for us to be in. I'm in danger being here with you anyway, just, politically. And now this is the thing, is that like Rhodey has always been like a suit.
Yeah.
Right. Like Tony was always the one.
He's a professional soldier.
Yeah,
right.
Tony was always the one that was like, "Fuck you, I'll do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. I will go and end whichever war I want to." And Rhodey's the one that goes and shows up to Senate hearings.
Like, we have to do this by the book. Yeah. We have to make sure we're working within the system,
and that's more or less what his thing is here.
Yeah,
right.
That's their whole conflict.
Yeah, and he like. So like, Nick Fury was like, "So what if I told you?" And this wouldn't be a surprise because this happened to us so many times before, but there is a shadowy organization out there ready to take over Earth. And he's like, so you mean like Hydra? And he's like,
yes, if they were shapeshifters.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest line, the second best line in the episode, where he said, yeah, if Hydra could shapeshift and turn into your daddy, which I thought was great. Yeah. They also they have this whole conversation about the balance and acquisition of power from white men.
Yes.
And it was a part of the conversation I really loved, because I name drop Alexander Pierce, who's played by Robert Redford in Avengers Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yeah.
About how
he's just some mediocre white dude who rose to his level of incompetence.
And we are exceptional.
Yes.
And like
exceptional black people who had to claw power away from this mediocre white dude.
So like, how does this make us look, pretty much, right? And
like, we should be backing each other up here.
Yeah. And Fury is like, we need to use that as leverage to solve this problem. And he's not convinced. The thing that really kind of tipped me off about, the thing that made me feel weird about Rhodey was he's like, so, this is going to blow your fucking underwear off, but there are Skrulls. And Rhodey's like, yeah, I know. I had this eyes only, conveniently unverified by anyone as to how I came to know this briefing on Skrulls. That's all you need to know about it.
I think in the timeline is like right before the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, it would have been when it would have been Iron Man 3-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we saw a point that was like, well, if Rhodey knew, he would have told Tony, which I don't think is actually, I think that there's actually shit he wouldn't have said.
If it was classified, Rhodey being Rhodey would not have told Tony anything.
Yeah. So like, I don't buy that, but just the fact that he had a convenient reason to know the Skrulls just feels weird to me. It's just like, so pretty much the point of this conversation is basically Don Cheadle being, that's this character named Don Cheadle, being like, you're old and you're done. You're step away. We'll figure this out. You're done.
We've tried doing things your way, cowboy seat of the pants outside the system. We're going to do things my way, where we work inside the system.
You're out. Best line of the episode. Sam Jackson gets like within spitting distance of his face, and it's like, bitch, I'm Nick Fury. Even when I'm out, I'm in. And stares at him through the sun. Like, in episode 3, right as Mace Windu is walking through the door,
he just stares at Palpatine.
And he's got that look like where if I were Palpatine, I just would have like dropped my lightsaber on the desk and been like, I'm very sorry.
Yeah,
I reconsidered.
You got me.
I surrender. He gives him that look that I might just beat you with this whiskey glass, and he fucks off.
Yeah,
right. And Don Cheadle's like, I pissed my pants, so I think I won't chase you.
That could have gone a lot worse.
That was also interesting. He's talking about the amount of political capital he had to spend on bringing Maria Hill's body back. So there's a scene with Daenerys.
So she's driving. What's his name?
They're back at the base, the nuclear site.
Oh yeah,
and she's like snooping around the computers. Well, before that even, she sneaks into a room that has some weird fucking equipment,
because
right?
she suspects Gravik and Pagan, I think his name is, are hiding things from her.
Which they are, turns out.
Yeah, so she follows Pagan into the reactor room, and she sees this couple of people working on this science experiment to basically give Skrulls superpowers.
We think.
We're pretty sure.
Yeah, it all like it makes sense at this point. But she sees the device and everything, and then later on she's doing some sneaking on a computer, and found that their side has been collecting DNA samples from Groot, the Cull Obsidian from Endgame and Infinity War,
one of the Jotunheim creatures,
the frost beast things, and then
the fiery guys.
Yeah, the glow boys from Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And was there another one in there?
No, it was just those four.
Oh, my dog's down here.
Oh yeah.
I like stepped on his face. He's not even moving. He's like, whatever, just leave me here. I'll be fine. So they have discovered that their guy that really wanted everyone to know he was an American, which led to the news being like this was an American anti-Russian thing,
terrorist thing,
has been captured
and is being interrogated by the Russian mob in the back of a butcher shop,
which is a dangerous position to be in, honestly.
What makes it even more dangerous is when a British spy walks into the butcher shop and says, I'm taking over now.
Well, it's not a British spy, like a British spy master.
Yes.
She's like in charge of the spies, I think. Played by her character's name's Sonia Fallsworth. I cannot remember the actress's name that plays her.
Well, you can look that up. I can tell you that she walks in, she like calls the Russian guy's boss and says, here, talk, I'm in charge now. And they say, okay, you're in charge now. And they walk out, and she immediately slices a finger off of the dude and says, oh, turn green, I guess you're a Skrull.
Because he's like, are you a Skrull? And he's like, no, well, I'm going to cut your finger off now. And that's how it works. She's like, listen, you're going to tell me everything you know,
and maybe you won't die.
Yeah. And
he's like, I'm not going to tell you anything. She's like, okay. Then
thought you might say that.
Okay. I have in this syringe here something that will light you on fire from the inside. Would you like to make any statements at this time before I inject you?
He's like, you're bluffing.
She's like, sir, I do not bluff.
Yeah,
let me just jam this into your spine, and now you're on fire.
I love this character. She's so polite. And she seems like nothing takes her by surprise.
I was telling you earlier, she reminds me of Dolores Umbridge.
Yeah, if Dolores Umbridge was, I don't know, there's something a little bit different about her where she has the same malice that's hidden under that level of politeness, but she seems a lot more competent than Dolores Umbridge.
I'd say so, yeah.
Dolores Umbridge is kind of a just malicious. A sycophant.
She's a bully,
right? But Sonia Fallsworth is like, no, she knows.
She knows her shit. Yeah.
And so she tortures the guy with the blue fluid and gets all of the information that she needs. And she's like, okay, here's the thing: your people are coming here to kill you because they know what you just told me. So I'm going to drop through that hole in the floor. See you later.
Bye.
Have fun with your friends. And on cue, Gravik
and his buddies come in and start shooting everybody up, and they bust their guy out.
The one guy they get like right as he's chopping a sausage, and they shoot him, and they cut through those guys like fucking easy. So they rescue the guy.
Conveniently, while they were doing this, Gaia is their driver, and she like steps out to an alley and calls someone on her cell phone, starts talking in Russian.
Yeah. I can't remember that.
It happened.
Oh, I believe that you did, but I believe that it did. I'm now just a little curious who that could have been.
Well, so what happens? They pull the Skrull out. They get him in the car. They drive through. They drive past their safe house where there's a bunch of cop cars going.
Their safe house has been busted.
Yes.
Yeah. Which there's only one way they would have known, and that's if the guy they rescued told him, right? And so Gravik's like, all right, so now we got to kill you.
Yeah, we're just going to drive him out in the woods and shoot him.
Yeah, so and they do. And it's kind of rude.
Yeah.
Kind of rude. But that guy's dead.
So one thing that bugs me about this scene is that they apparently just shoot the guy and leave his body in the woods which, like, if I was an alien species secretly invading Earth,
You'd just be a dead Skrull.
I would not leave a dead Skrull lying in the woods. I would at least put him in the trunk and take him back to base to burn him.
Maybe they have like a team. They're like, we killed another one. Come out here and get him.
Yeah, maybe.
So that guy's dead. The episode ends in a pretty big surprise for me because I've always assumed that Nick Fury is the kind of badass that is never married. He's
too busy for that shit.
His life is the job. His life is saving the universe, right? I was incorrect. And
See, he drives out to this house in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Not only is he fucking this gorgeous black woman, she's also a Skrull.
Yeah.
Which it totally makes sense to me that he would meet the first alien race this human meets. He's like, I want to fuck one of you.
That's very human behavior.
Yeah, right. And
especially when that alien can look like anyone you want.
Right. Yeah.
Or anyone they want.
It would have been really funny if she would have taken the form of like 1990s Whoopi Goldberg or something. But
they couldn't get Whoopi Goldberg's permission for that.
Well, I don't know. They got her for Picard, but anyway, or did they? No, they did. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's interesting. I presume that they've been together since the 90s, and they make a point of he walks in, she's in the kitchen, she sees him, she's like, aren't you forgetting something? Yeah.
He walks back out to a little end table, puts on his wedding ring.
Yeah. So apparently the wedding ring stays home. He doesn't wear it while he's out because if people knew Nick Fury had a wife,
they would look for her.
Yeah,
and
she'd be it's probably his biggest kept secret. Like a man of many secrets, this is probably the most important one, right? Mm-hmm. And they do a
little smooch, little hug.
And there for a minute, I'm like, thank God, because like how miserable would he be otherwise, right? Yeah. Carrying all this bullshit on his back. I'm just like really, and if I'm being honest, I'm really happy that it's a Skrull because there's some like subtext there about what's a good way to say this without starting a fight about it?
When has that ever stopped you?
Yeah, that's a fair point. It has almost an interracial marriage subtext to it.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of ironic since the human form she takes is black and he's also black.
Yeah.
But like it really does make sense that he probably spent a lot of time with Skrulls because that was his mission for a while is to help them find their home planet, right? And so...
I mean, that was probably his whole thing until the Avengers Initiative kicked in with...
Until Loki showed me, he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is this? So I think she's a good Skrull.
I think so too.
It would be a pretty terrible if she ended up being like one of the bad Skrulls or whatever. But the point of this episode is Sam Jackson can still act like crazy. So can Don Cheadle, by the way. But also they're probably going for the Super Skrulls thing. Which, if you don't know from the comics, there are Skrulls that can take humans' memories and faces, and that's easy. Like that's just what they do, right? But at some point they make it possible for Skrulls to take the identities of superheroes and also their powers, which would in this like spycraft thing could be devastating for humans. Just imagine a Captain Marvel flying around who works for the Skrulls, who could just
appears to have all of Captain Marvel's powers,
or has them, I think, and could like headbutt Earth in one go and destroy everything, right? Like having the biggest nuclear bomb in the world.
Imagine the Party Thor Marvel What If, but actually happening.
Yeah. And not just to Thor, just to everyone collectively. Yeah. Her just like, or actually, in the other one where she takes Ultron to the center of that planet, where she's like, yeah, I'm done with you, and just goes right to the core of the planet. And she's like totally fine. Mm-hmm. She still dies, but anyway. The cool show so far. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. We're gonna do the next thing. I don't know, for like 20
Indy
minutes.
5.
Yeah. So
we're going to speed through. Like this movie came out literally today.
Yeah. Which means that you probably have not seen it. And if you don't care to, that's fine, but we're going to spoil it. It's,
we did see it because we're Disney shills.
Yeah.
Wink.
I didn't hate this one. I did not enjoy Crystal Skull very much. And then I learned some. So we're talking about this on the ride back home today. I learned some stuff about Indiana Jones,
the expanded Indieverse,
right? And then learned that Indiana Jones meeting interdimensional beings, is not actually that out there.
It's not even the weirdest thing he's seen,
right? So like it's like I've kind of softened on that a little bit. This one, I thought, yes, it probably was a money grab.
Okay. Out of 9 dead Nazis, how many would you give this?
You've got me thinking about dead Nazis. I'm just hard as fuck now.
Because I personally would go like 6.5, maybe 7 dead
Nazis. I think 7's good. I think 7's a good solid number.
So there you go. That's our official review. 7 out of 9 dead Nazis.
To be fair, I had a better time seeing this than I did The Flash.
Yeah, me too.
I am way less connected to Indiana Jones than I am Michael Keaton's Batman, and I had more fun watching this movie.
I have very little connection to Indy, and I thoroughly enjoyed the first half of the movie. The back half lost me a little bit, but
so yes, it probably is a money grab.
Yeah.
We all have to come to peace with this. Is what movie? It's what Hollywood does. It's like we made this thing, it made money. We're going to make 4 more. Yeah. That's just how it is. I'm sorry.
Make it till it stops making money.
Is it a shitty practice? Yes. It causes a breakdown in the quality of art.
It stifles creativity. Yeah. It's bad.
Totally on board with you there. That being said, I was not entertained, and there are a couple of like pretty impressive things in this movie that I was like, damn. For example, CG young Harrison Ford was in a lot of the shots photorealistic.
Looks pretty good, yeah.
I was like, did they go back? Did they use the Dial of Destiny to go back and grab young Harrison Ford and bring him?
The thing they couldn't quite fix was his voice, which still sounds like 80-year-old Harrison Ford, even though he looks to be about 30.
I felt like some of the lines he said when he was younger, I think they might have used that AI generated thing sometimes, and it removed all the emotion from his voice.
Maybe.
Because Harrison Ford is not an emotionless actor. He's just really grumpy all the time, right? Where there's always like a gravel in his voice.
He's like, I could be flying my plane right now.
I could be crashing my plane right now. So, but I was really impressed by they did de-aging on him and Mads Mikkelsen, who was also in this movie and did a fine performance, I thought. Underused. I made the joke in the car on the way back that he was pretty much just Lashif from James Bond Casino Royale, just without the crying blood thing, and without the inhaler. But they knew how to use him. They're like, we want you to first put on your Nazi uniform. Good. Okay. Now, just turn into the camera and look real badass. Great, we got it. And that's which, if you got Mads Mikkelsen in your movie, by the way, this is the brother of Lars Mikkelsen, who is live action Thrawn, for those of you who don't know. So let's run through the plot just a little bit.
Okay. So we open in World War II.
Yeah, just like every indie movie opens with an adventure.
Yes.
Right. So
Indy is sneaking into a German castle where they're hoarding. Well, no, he got captured. I'm sorry. The Germans are hoarding all these like art pieces and artifacts and things.
They found the stabby bit that poked Jesus.
The Spear of Longinus.
Which apparently is supposed to have magical powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they haul
Which I'm sitting there, an atheist, being like, how do you know Jesus is real? Which is not... Okay, so it is fair to say, in the Indiana Jones universe, God is real in this universe. And
the Ark of the Covenant will fuck you up if you open it,
or the Holy Grail, or the Night Guardian. Well, he won't fuck you up because he's like 1,000 years old. But like God exists in that like continuity. Yeah. So like this probably was the spear that poked Jesus, which I'm not sure what powers.
Except it's not, because the scientist says like 15 minutes later, this is a fake.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of like, what would the Jesus pokey bit like? What powers would it get from poking Jesus?
I mean, he bled on it a little, so it has something. Like, it has the blood of God on it.
Doesn't it just turn into wine, though?
I don't know.
I've not been a Christian for a long time. I cannot remember.
Anyway.
But, yeah. And so they're like, Hitler wants this. And so we're going to bring it to him. And it was really funny.
American archaeologist, we're just going to hang you now.
Yeah, right. Because we are Nazis. But just a level above that, we are also mustache twirling bad guys. Mm-hmm. So we're going to hang you and
rather than just shoot you and leave you in a ditch, we're going to
actually Indiana Jones. It's like the old 1960s Batman, right? Where they like suspend him over a tank of sharks and they like have a laser pointed at him. And they're like, "Will he escape? Tune in next week." And it's like, of course he's going to escape, right? It's Indiana fucking Jones. They get their castle gets bombed.
Yes,
by the
Americans, British allies.
It's probably the Americans. We bomb everything, and it saves him.
Yeah,
somehow getting bombed saved him. I'm not.
Well, the bomb that crashes through the roof doesn't go off. And is the thing.
The ironic thing here is, since he's the only one hanging by the neck, he's safe because the floor just disappears.
The floor breaks out. Everyone else falls. He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Oh God.
Yeah. What a great day to get hanged. To be honest. So this whole thing leads to a chase thing on a train.
Yes. His buddy got captured by the Nazis.
Who's played by the actor that plays Dr. What's his name from the MCU? The computer face.
Oh yeah, Doctor. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Zola?
Yeah. I don't know why I wanted to say Zoidberg. Not Zoidberg. Zola. Dr. Zola.
They just renewed Futurama for a new season.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Another one.
That's surprising to me. So
anyway,
he's not a bad guy in this one. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. So they're on the getaway train. Indy has to like steal a car and then steal a motorcycle to sneak onto the train. He figures out that the Spear of Longinus is a fake the same time the German guy says it's a fake. So they're like, well, shit, now what am I going to tell Hitler? Like, this was the magical artifact he wanted.
They're like, just try to be reasonable with him. Tell him, sir, we found the artifact. It seems to be a steel alloy or an alloy that was made 50 years ago. And I tried my best. I'm very sorry. And the dude's like, have you ever met Adolf fucking Hitler? That's not how he works. Men with mustaches like that don't work like that. And he's like, okay, that's fair point.
Mads Mikkelsen. I have the right Mikkelsen, right? It's not Lars.
Mads, yeah.
This is Mads. Mads is like, how about this cool calculator that Archimedes made 2,000 years ago?
Stop with the calculator, God damn it. And he's like, oh, guys, come on.
Like, come on. It's math. That's way cooler than magic.
He's like, just like Daniel, I'm an atheist, and this is not supernatural. It's based on math, and that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
like,
science, bitch.
Yeah, it's like, stop talking about your stone calculator.
While they're talking about this, Indiana Jones is like sneaking through the train and eventually starts beating up Nazis, and he gets his friend and they escape and they grab the calculator. And so then they're like running on top of the train and punching and shooting Nazis. And
great time, by the way.
Yeah.
Bunch of Nazis.
Eventually the scientist catches up and pulls the gun on him. I was like, all right, give me the fucking calculator. And Indy like tosses him his bag.
I like how we're just calling the Dial of Destiny a calculator now, which I don't even think in the movie that it's supposed to be a calculator.
It does.
You know what? It's a calculator.
Yeah.
That's fine. Texas Instrument Dial Destiny.
So eventually Indy and his buddy jump into the river and they get out and
Mads Mikkelsen gets hit in the face and he survives this.
Somehow.
This does not look like an accident you survive.
No.
Now I was like, okay, so when we see him later,
his face is gonna be fucked.
Yeah, because he was so de-aged. It would make sense that when we see him later on, he's just as beautiful. Because I'm sorry, Mads Mikkelsen is a beautiful man. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of in love with him in a very weird, like, you could probably convert me to do evil things kind of way. He's not like conventionally, I don't know. He's a really good actor, I think is the thing. And so, yeah, they escape. The Americans come in, or I think the British come in.
It was definitely the Brits.
Yeah, because they had the flag. Yeah,
the Union Jack. And like Indy's buddy is like, well, it's a shame we had to, give him the calculator. And Indy's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have the calculator right here.
I needed a calculator, so I took the calculator. And he's like, Indiana Jones.
So now it's the modern day, which is the day after Apollo 11 got back.
Which would have been late 60s, I think.
Yes.
So JFK, nice. JFK was killed in 63, and I think Apollo 11 happened after that.
Yes, it was before the end of the decade.
Apollo 11.
So it would be 68, 69.
69, yeah.
69. Okay.
Summer of 69.
Yes. So it's the summer of 1969. Indy is teaching his last day at the university ever because he's retiring.
He woke up like I woke up every day of college.
He passed out in his chair in his boxers.
A drink still in his hand.
Yep.
If I can get, I have to teach. I swear to God, I had days like this in college. It's just like, I'm still a little drunk. I have to go teach kindergarten.
So he's hungover teaching his
Don't tell anyone I said that.
Archaeology 101 class or whatever. It's like, you fuckers, who can tell me about Archimedes? And this woman in the back of the room was like, yeah, Archimedes. He lived in Syracuse.
He does the gag that I've heard every college professor ever do when they're like, did you do the reading? And everyone's like,
dude, I'm not in college to read books. Yeah. What the fuck?
And then they do the line about, okay, I'll spoon feed it to you. And it's like, I've heard that so many times. That is, and he's very good. It's the most Harrison Ford. He's such a grump with his transparencies on his overhead. He's like, it's like, this is a picture.
You can see the things and
he just doesn't want to be there. Like he's missed his 10 o'clock drink and he needs to be done with this so he can go get his 10 o'clock drink. So yeah, he's asking all these questions.
Yeah. And there's this woman in the back of the class who's answering him. And he's doesn't really acknowledge her. After class, he goes back to the department office or whatever, and there's a big retirement party for him, and there's a cake, and someone hands him a clock,
which is a recurring motif through the I noticed this a few times. He gets that clock. The calculator is actually more like a clock. At the end, he wakes up to a ticking clock. So it's Steven Spielberg is very, that's the shit he does.
So he walks out, he hands the clock to someone on the street and keeps walking. The woman from his class keeps walking and follows him. And then we see a shot of a black woman who's following the woman.
She's got some fucking clothes on too. Like she's got that late 60s. She's got a leather jacket and her fucking collared shirt over it. And she got, I think, kind of an afro, if I remember correctly. And the big fucking earrings
big
and shit.
Sunglasses,
like I was like,
everything.
Damn, you are doing 60s very well.
She pulled it off really well. Anyway, so it will not surprise you to learn that Indiana Jones is day drinking.
Yeah, goes to the bar.
Yep.
Time for breakfast.
And the woman shows up and says, hey, fucking day drinking, pour me one. He's like, who the fuck are you? She's like, don't you recognize me? I'm your goddaughter. And he's like, well, shit, I guess you are.
Yeah. In which real life Harrison Ford have been like, oh, fuck. So they both day drink.
Yeah. And she's talking about, and, I just graduated with my degree in archaeology. And I want to talk about the fucking calculator you and my dad lost in France. And, pinpoint the location on the map. Mm-hmm. He's like, the fuck? Like,
he's like, I'm going to level I don't care about this anymore. I have the calculator. At least I have half of it. It's in my office. Let's go. Yeah. And she's like,
okay, sure.
Okay. So they go over to the office. He's expositing about it. Like pulls out of a drawer.
Well, there's a scene where we see Mads Mikkelsen chilling in a hotel room.
Oh, right, yeah.
With some goons.
Still unapologetically a Nazi.
Yes. Like
he doesn't care who knows. And he doesn't care who knows he doesn't like the president of the United States either. Because it's really funny. He's getting interviewed by a reporter. And
that comes later.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We're probably not gonna we'll probably get over that anyways. Yeah. It's not really that important. But like they're like this. He's getting interviewed by because he like helped make the atomic bombers. I don't know, or rockets,
space program. Yeah.
And like this is something about meeting the president, and he's like, well, if the president doesn't like how my suit is pressed, he fuck himself in the ass. And the reporter's like, can I say that? And like his guy's like, no. And then Mads Mikkelsen is like, you better use it. Yes. Fuck that guy.
Anyway, so Harrison Ford gives some backstory about the fucking the dial, and then she's like, ooh, can I hold this? And then Mads Mikkelsen,
can I have it? Because that's what I meant.
Yeah, Mads Mikkelsen's goons bust in and they shot two people in the hall. Yeah. And
some poor assistant.
They're like, hey, give me the fucking dial. And the Helena is her name.
Yeah.
She fucking runs off with it and
closes the door.
Yeah. So basically Indy is framed for murdering those two people now.
Yeah.
So he's kind of on the run. Helena is going to Tangier to sell the calculator because that's what.
Yeah. Also, like I think it's funny how just wonderfully generic his henchmen are.
Yeah.
Like I recognize
there's the big one, there's the southern one.
Yeah, and it's like they really want to be Nazis. Like you get like those guys want to be Nazis.
I mean, they're all blonde, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they are. And I recognize the actor that is like the southern one. Isn't he in Star Trek Enterprise?
Maybe.
I don't know, but I recognize the actor, but then I immediately forgot who he was because he's like his character is like the most generic thing in the world, which is not specific to this. Like all Indiana Jones movies are like they have their generic. It's like James Bond. Yeah. You have like the one henchman that's very notable, but the rest of them are just really generic, right?
So Indy calls up one of his friends from the old movies who's like a cab driver in America now, and he was Egyptian before. And he's like, I need to fucking go to the airport.
Yeah, he was he's a reference from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yeah.
Sala is his name.
Yeah. So Sala drives him to the airport, and Indy hops on a plane to Tangier.
They do the classic Indiana Jones globetrotting animation with the plane in the map and everything, which I thought was really great.
So he goes to the hotel where Helena is selling the calculator, and there's this kid who's like running through a paper flight simulator, flipping switches and shit while a pilot is mentoring.
It's like Chekhov's fake plane thing. Yeah.
So Helena is auctioning off the calculator to a bunch of criminals, and Harrison Ford is like, this fucking auction's over. Fuck you. And then fucking Mads Mikkelsen walks in and it's like, you're quite right. Can you give me the calculator or else my goons will shoot all of you?
Speaking of goons, the guy I was talking about dated Elizabeth Olsen.
Oh.
Who played Scarlet Witch.
Yeah,
and they apparently were going to be engaged, and then I think she killed him with chaos magic.
So the gunfight breaks out. The kid grabs the calculator and runs out, but the fucking Mads Mikkelsen takes it and gets into his car. And Helena and Indy are out on the street about to give chase when Helena's ex-fiance drives up, who's this
mobster.
Yeah.
The Moroccan mobster.
Yeah. And there's this big chase scene, which is actually pretty well done, I thought.
Yeah, they're all fine.
Yeah. But
is this where I got up to go to the bathroom?
Maybe
it was somewhere around here. Okay, so this is the thing about it. If you don't know me, I take a nap every day at 2:38. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. Because I'm in my mid 30s, and I don't have students then.
You just need a siesta.
I go and sleep for like 30 minutes, and it's fucking great. We go to see movies at 3, so we can come back and do this, right? And I always drink some coffee before we go, and I forget because we were like, I was down here doing shit when you got here, and I forgot to drink my cup of coffee, and I'm sitting there halfway through this movie like, did I just fall asleep? No. I was like, I gotta stand up and like wake myself up and go to the bathroom and stuff.
So the Nazis actually get cornered by the U.S. military, who are just in Morocco picking up the Nazi scientist because he's a Nazi scientist and you don't want to leave him unattended. Yeah,
they tend to do bad things when they're alone.
So they're flying him to Spain so that they can take him back to the U.S. to do whatever the fuck. And Mads Mikkelsen doesn't take too kindly to that. So his goons shoot all the U.S. soldiers on the helicopter, and as well as the black officer.
Which they are horny to shoot people.
Yes.
That's like their whole thing in this movie is like, we just want to shoot everybody.
They're like, okay, we need to go to fucking Greece to find the thing that has the other half of the calculator.
Pull up the map animation. We're going to Greece.
And Indy is like, I know a guy. We'll go. We'll get his diving shit.
He's got a boat. Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's Antonio Banderas. Which I thought, it was like Antonio Banderas is in this. Yeah. That was Antonio Banderas, by the way.
Oh,
right?
Cool. Was it? I don't actually know.
Yeah, it was Antonio Banderas.
Okay.
He's looking a little older than I'm used to, because like I think the last time I saw him in something was like The Mask of Zorro.
Yeah.
From the 90s or something.
So they get up there.
Puss in Boots, but you don't see his face.
Yeah. So they get on the boat and they go diving in Antonio Banderas' incredibly jury-rigged, extremely unsafe diving setup.
Which I'm sure is, it's the 60s. That's how you do it.
Yeah. So it's Antonio Banderas, Indy, Helena, and some dude whose name we never get. Who I wonder who's going to die down there.
Yeah, he's definitely the red shirt.
So the three of them go down to the boat and the crashed ancient Roman ship, and they find the MacGuffin, and they're attacked by eels, and they escape up to the surface.
There's a gag. There's an age-long joke about how Indiana Jones doesn't like snakes, and they're like,
eels in the water, and they're like snakes. Yeah. No, they're not.
Yeah.
So they get up there just in time to find that the Nazis have caught up with them and taken over their boat, and so now Mads Mikkelsen is like, yes, Indiana Jones, you have found the thing that tells me where the other half of the calculator is. Now, if only I knew how to read this shit. You know how to read this shit. Read it for me. And he's like, fuck you. I'm not going to read that. Antonio Banderas is like, okay, I'm just going to shoot Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
Antonio Banderas is dead. And he's like, fuck you. I'm not reading that. And Helena's
I don't like Antonio Banderas.
Helena's like, see, if this continues, you're going to shoot me, and I don't really like that. Yeah. So why don't you just let me read
That's
that?
antithetical to health.
Yeah.
I would like to not be shot.
So she reads the thing. It's in some ancient Greek cipher or whatever. She's like, yes, from all of these clues, we can conclude that the MacGuffin is in Alexandria. Yeah. The Nazi's like, great, Alexandria. And while she was doing this, like she was secretly lighting a stick of dynamite.
Yeah, they had Chekhov's dynamite from earlier, yeah.
And so she, the kid, and Indy escape onto the Nazis' boat and go sailing off. While they're there, Indy's like, this tablet is supposed to be made out of like wax and wood, except it's way too heavy, so I'm gonna light it on fire. And
that's what you do when something feels kind of heavy. You light it on fire.
And so like the wax melts, and there's this golden disc that has the other ancient Greek cipher on it. And he starts reading off and realizes it's in Syracuse, Sicily. So they go off to Syracuse. Unfortunately, the Nazi still has his binoculars. Like, wait a minute.
They just see what direction they're going in. They're like
going the wrong way.
They're not going to Greece.
Yeah.
So they just follow them.
Egypt.
Yeah, or whatever, yeah.
So they get to Syracuse. They figure out, okay, it's in this one cave. We need to go to where there's a bunch of echoes and shit.
It's your typical Indiana Jones cave. There are traps. There's a methane trap.
Traps. There's a bridge. There's all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
So they get to Archimedes' tomb, where the other half of the thing is.
Dude is laying there, decomposed as fuck, wearing a wristwatch.
Yes.
And they're like, wait
a minute. That's not right.
This doesn't make sense.
So the Nazis catch up with them, and they pull out their guns, and Mads Mikkelsen is like, all right, I got 2 halves of the calculator, now we can travel through time.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck?
Which, this, by the way, this came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know exactly, because they kept making things like, oh, they can find a rift in time and blah, blah, blah. And like Mads Mikkelsen kept like, time. And I was like, he's probably just crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And like, but they're like they go back in time.
Yeah.
Like they fucking do. And I was like, I'm on board.
Okay,
let's
sure.
fucking go back in time. I might as well.
In the midst of all this, Indiana Jones gets shot like right above his heart, which seems like it would be far more lethal than it is, but he's just fine for the rest of the movie.
That's a pretty good place to get shot, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a doctor. Don't go and shoot yourself there.
So Helena and the kid escape, and Indy gets taken prisoner by the Nazis, and they go to the airport and get this big Nazi plane. They'll put on their Nazi uniforms. This is Indiana Jones, and that's just what you do.
You can tell they feel so pretty in these uniforms, because like all of them are walking straighter, and like Mads Mikkelsen like turns to the camera. He's like, "Oh, this looks fucking good."
Yeah. So they get on the plane.
They're just waiting the whole movie to show everyone else they're Nazis, like they're actual Nazis.
Like Helena sneaks on the plane by like jumping onto one of the landing gear or some shit, and the kid like steals another plane, and like a dinky little single engine Cessna or whatever. So everyone goes flying towards the time rift, and on the way there, Indy's like, wait a minute, Archimedes didn't know about continental drift. So that
Mads Mikkelsen is like, I don't know about that either. What are you talking about?
What it means is that time rift is not going where you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
Because I guess the Nazi wanted to go back in time and like kill Hitler so
he could take over.
So someone actually competent could run Nazi
I think
Germany.
Mads Mikkelsen was supposed to take over.
Yeah, something like that. No, turns out they go back to the siege of Syracuse, so like 200 BC, where the Romans are
so they fly. This is great. They like, because like you could tell Mads Mikkelsen is like, shit, what if he's right? And then he like tries to order them to abort. Like he's like, Indiana's just like, dude, I don't want to go. I would rather go back to 1930s Germany than 200 BC Rome. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you the truth, man. And there's that second where he's like, oh, I think he's right. And
we gotta turn around.
Yeah, but they can't because it's pulling them in, right? And they go through the fucking rift, and they're flying through, and there for a second, they're like, this is fucking Italy.
It's Sicily.
This is exactly how I remember it.
And then they look down.
And it's fucking these old as fuck boats.
Yep.
Just throwing rocks on fire at each other. It's like,
they're like, shit, he was right.
Yeah, like, okay, we're in 200 BC. This sucks.
So the Nazis' plane gets shot down by spears and shit. And
they all think the Romans and the who is attacking them?
The Romans are attacking the Syracuse.
Right. And like everyone just thinks they're dragons. Mm-hmm. Like the one side thinks the other side has dragons, and the other side thinks the other side has dragons.
They're like, shit, we gotta shoot down those dragons.
And they're just up there in the plane like, what the fuck? You think we're dragons? This is just an airplane.
They pull out their guns and start shooting because they're Nazis, and that's what you do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this, I started imagining like if someone came 2,000 years from the future with some of their tech, I would probably be like, that's a dragon. Like that's probably a dragon. Yeah. So it totally tracks.
So Archimedes sees all this shit happening. He's like, I gotta go down there and see what's going on. So he takes some assistance and rides a horse down. The Nazis' plane crashes. Indy and Helena bail out with a parachute. the kid is flying his plane, manages to land it, and he's like, hey, we need to get the fuck out of here. And Indy's like, shit, I got shot. I'm just going to fucking die here. You can go home. And Helena's like, no, you need to fucking come home because you're going to fuck up time.
I got shot in a very non-lethal play. Honestly, I'm feeling fine.
Yeah.
But to be fair, and just stick with me here, this is 200 BC, and it might actually be kind of cool to I would be a god to these people. I could discover antibiotics. I could tell them about germs. I could do all of these very simple things that they just haven't discovered yet, and I would be a god.
Or just observe the history that he's been.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to be. He doesn't want to be Rick Sanchez of you know, the ancient world.
So like Archimedes catches up.
I think he just wants to hang out with Archimedes. Yeah. He's like, you know, that guy seems kind of cool.
I mean, if I could speak ancient Greek, Archimedes seems like a pretty cool guy to hang out with. So Archimedes catches up with him, and like he had grabbed the Nazis' wristwatch from the crashed plane, and he was real happy with it. And they're like, yeah, you need to fucking go home now. Like you don't belong here. You're from 2,000 years in the future. Get out of here. And finally they're like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And, well, Helena's like that. Indy's like, no, I want to stay here. And Helena's like, well, too fucking bad. It's not your choice. And she punches him in the face.
Have you never seen Back to the Future? You like your being here will fuck something up.
It destroys everything.
Yeah. And I have a mean right hook, and now you're going to sleep.
So Indy wakes up in his apartment back in 1969. Nice. Helena's there, and she's like, yeah, welcome back. And the door opens, and who should walk in but Marion?
Yeah, and it's they do the fucking Raiders theme, their love theme, which, by the way, their relationship's kind of gross. Like the dialogue in the first movie suggests that she was 15 when they started fucking, which is you. But if you can get past that, it's really sweet, right? Because I can't believe we waited this long to mention this. John Williams scored this movie. Yes. And it's great. The dude is 180 years old, still writing some of the best music we've ever heard, right? Yeah. And knows when to drop these nostalgic themes, which is more or less. And I give him some slack on this because I'm pretty sure that George Lucas or either George Lucas or Steven Spielberg was like, I want that Star Wars or that Indiana Jones theme in here, because Marion's theme is almost identical to the Han and Leia love theme. But I assume that they were like, we want it to sound like that, whichever the other one is, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's a really nice theme, and the incidental music throughout. It just, they don't write music like this anymore. Where I don't know how to explain it. It's not like it's recorded by a better maybe it's better orchestrated. Because the guys that orchestrate John Williams' music are amazing, like the best right?
in the business.
Yeah. And they don't do work for anyone else. Like they just do his shit, right? And there are just things where, like, if you're a musician, it's kind of a feast for your ears sometimes, where because you can have a theme. John Williams writes it on piano, right? Because he doesn't have time to do anything else because he's in super high demand. And so he'll write like 2 minutes of music on his piano, and he'll write it for like a 2-line piano part. And he'll put some ideas, and he's like, this melody should be like a flute. And I'm not going to write all this out, but put some crazy woodwind shit here. And he'll draw a shape.
Put some cool horn riffs.
Yeah, right. And then he'll hand it to someone and be like, turn this into a piece for orchestra. And they're like,
right away, Mr. Williams.
My life is a dream. I thought you'd never ask. And they do it. And they're like, there's just something about how the color of the instruments during certain emotional moments, and the fact that in a time where a lot of film scores are just noise without melodies, he writes a melody, one of the most recognizable melodies in the entire world is the theme from Indiana Jones, that he can write shit like that. And I know that there are probably Hans Zimmer fans that will end up watching this. I'm very sorry. We could argue about this some other time, but I hate his music. I do, because it's just noise, right? I could ask you to sing the theme from Batman, and it's just 2 notes. Yeah, that's all it is, and then a bunch of and some sound effects, right? And for certain moments it works really well, but like John Williams is at the end of his life, probably. I think maybe he's a Skrull too. I don't know, and is writing these beautiful musical moments throughout the piece, and the like when Miriam walks in at the end, it's just like solo flute for a while, just that theme on solo flute, and then brings in other instruments and textures and stuff. And I found myself like, okay, I know that they're gonna fuck, so I'm just gonna sit here and listen to this for a second, because it is such quality music. Like it's like movies don't have music like this unless it's written by John Williams. It's amazing. It blows my fucking mind every time.
The last shot is Indy's hat on the clothesline outside, and like the
Steven Spielberg
the circle wipe, and then he reaches out through the window and grabs it.
Yep.
That's the end. That's it.
And it's, you know what? It's fucking great.
That's
I like
great
it.
way for it to go out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure this will be the last one.
I think everyone involved has had enough.
Yeah. Also, look, you found the Ark of the Covenant. You went and did a voodoo dance with Hindi gods, I think, in Temple of Doom. You found the Holy Grail. And the 2,000-year-old knight that was guarding it. And you met interdimensional beings.
And then you proved time travel is real.
What else can Indiana Jones do that will make sense, right? So probably the last one.
Yep.
Not apparently John Williams' last movie.
He'll compose until he's dead.
He and Spielberg did this really funny, like they did this like joint interview. And like the guy was like, so when are you guys retiring? And they're like, we'll die first.
Like John Williams will compose until he's decomposing,
which is
that's all there is.
It's such a Beethoven thing, by the way. Like I know, like this is the end of the show. I'm sure a lot of people have kind of been like, but so like Beethoven, he's so broody. Like you could see him in bed dying, like moments away from death, still writing notes, and like as he dies, just just lying on the paper, and that's it. Beethoven's dead. It's like, you know. I don't like that. John Williams is like the reason I became a musician, and like it is one of the more formative figures in my life, really. And like, the idea of him not composing music anymore is really sad to me. So I'm glad that he's like, fuck it, I'll just go until I die. But then it's like, don't you ever fucking die, you bastard! I swear to God. So yeah, I give it a solid 7 dead Nazis out of 9 dead Nazis, which is not enough dead Nazis if I'm being frank, but that's what it gets. Phoebe Waller-Bridge was fine in this. I know that the Mike Zero crowd and all those other dumbasses are like, oh no, woke.
No, a woman.
Yeah, she was fine.
She had her moments even.
Yeah, and none of the normal criticisms. She wasn't a Mary Sue or whatever the fuck they're saying nowadays. Or like she does critical race theory or whatever the fuck, whatever the current buzzword is.
Yeah.
The woke mind virus, I think, is what. This is the dumbest shit in the world. She was fine. Everyone was fine. Yeah. Harrison Ford, probably over it. And it kind of seemed like he was
definitely grumping his way through.
But you know what? He's playing, at least now he's not like playing like a younger version of himself. Like he's playing like 70-year-old Indiana Jones or whatever.
I did think that there's an interesting similarity between old ass Indiana Jones and old ass Han Solo. In the way that like their personal lives have just completely gone to shit.
Yeah, I was thinking about that in the last scene where their stories are very similar about like they lose their loved one and it was over the death or the metaphysical death of their son. Oh, I forgot to mention that. So Shia LaBeouf was in the last film and played Indiana Jones's son. Shia LaBeouf famously crashed and burned. With a bunch of sexual assault allegations, and he's just kind of crazy and shit. And then went on record and pretty much was like, Indiana Jones is a bad movie. So the one I was in. And Steven Spielberg called him up and was like, fuck you, dude. Like, you'll never work for me again. In fact, you probably won't work fucking anywhere. Hang up the phone, right? And so how do they lampshade that in this movie? They're like, he died. Right? Like that's in the story. That's what happens. His son Mutt is killed in the war, and I think like Steven Spielberg. They could have not mentioned it. They could have not mentioned it. He's like,
they could have, but no, he's fucking dead.
He's in Belize or whatever. They're like, he died a horrific death. Fuck you, Shia LaBeouf. I thought it was pretty great. So I think we've gone.
We're way
enough.
over time.
Yeah.
We gotta get out of here.
Tomorrow, Battlefront at 7. Next week, or probably live show on Thursday because I have a rehearsal on Wednesday. Okay. So next week will be Secret Invasion.
Maybe some Star Wars stuff. Who knows?
Oh, if it's only Secret Invasion, because you're recapping next week, there might be a Star Wars story time next week. If we, depending on how much news and stuff.
I don't know. I feel like we always go along.
Yeah, we'll see. I might have one ready just in case. So if you haven't liked and subscribed already, go ahead and do that. The different versions of this video will be on YouTube in smaller chunks. So you can go subscribe to us there. Make sure you join us on Discord and say hi. Another thanks to Connor at the Star Wars Hub and Stars Veritas. And lastly, thank you to all of you guys, all like 10 of you or whatever who are watching. We love you guys. It's been a blast, and we'll see you later. Bye.